The first step of any good project is disassembly, of course. I started by disassembling the two toys for this project and cutting off any parts that were not needed. The main body for what I wanted to make into the shuttle here had little wheel wells in it, and so I wanted to cut those back just to make it sit flat on the table. Next, I knew I wasn't completely happy with the overall shape of this shuttle, so I took the body section of the other toy and began cutting off the front of it. This would give me a nice little nose section to work up and sculpt from once I was able to attach it later. The second toy had these jet wings on it with large turbines that I was able to just kind of pop off and slot into the other toy. So after fitting the wings to the body, I then take the remainder of that back half section and begin cutting away the angled piece in the rear. I wanted it to shape the back half of our shuttle. So with all of my pieces cut out, I dry fit them and then begin to glue them together. In this project, I am just primarily using hot glue. I like to use hot glue in most of my terrain projects because I don't really care about the mess it creates. It's not like a fine scale miniature where you need to have all of the detail nice and intact. You can afford a little bit of spillover and clean it up after the fact. To fill in these wheel wells, I end up using another bit from the shuttle toy and just filling in the section. The nose section here, I just checked to make sure I knew where I wanted it and glue it down. Then the final thing I did for assembly before sculpting was threw in these little pieces of plastic just to make the back engines look a bit more complicated. With it all assembled, I just use big clumps of milliput that are then smoothed out to fill in any gaps and smooth the body. I don't end up showing it because I lost that footage, unfortunately. Once the milliput is dry a few hours later, I come back and prime the whole shuttle. At this point, I've decided there's some sections I'm not super happy with, and so I sand back down those sections and re-prime them. This process was done, I believe, 4 times just to get the various sections of the ship smooth enough that I was happy with them. With the ship sanded and re-primed, I am just checking all of the angles and making sure I am satisfied with the shape before I move on to painting. I decided early on that the main of the body I was just going to go with a gunmetal. I didn't want to do anything too complicated, but overall I was satisfied with it. Well, once the silver was down, I wanted to do a glowing effect on all of the turbines and engines. I do this by spraying a combination of purple and then blue across all of the engines and turbines and finish that off with a red in the center. This creates a nice glowing effect that looks like the metal in the area has been heated up. It's quite stylized. I don't think you would ever see an actual object with coloring like this, but it ends up looking good on the finished product, and that's really all I care about. Once again, going back my trusty magic cards, using it to block off the areas I have already painted, I begin painting the entire screen a nice blue. With all of my base colors down, I go back in and start painting my details. I decided this was going to be a medic vehicle, and so I wanted to make it a striping of blue with a red shield and freehand a white cross into the center of the shield. At one point I had contemplated putting guns on this carrier, but I decided ultimately that I believe it's against the Geneva Convention for a medic ship to be carrying guns, and so I thought it's maybe best not to have those guns. Let me tell you, freehanding a bunch of white crosses in red shields trying to make them symmetrical was not the most enjoyable part of this project. With the little side details, I decided to fill them in blue as well. There was no real reason other than I just did not want to add another color to the palette. It makes every other color feel a bit more distinct not adding another color. And there you have it. Ultimately, I like the outcome. It's a nice little medic ship that I can use for terrain for Stargrave and other sci-fi games, or it's just a nice little shelf piece. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more in the future, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and have yourself a great afternoon. Bye!